Little blue screen this morning. Hump Day. In many ways, for me, it's a glorious day because the kleptocrat in chief is getting impeached by the House. Now, I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent. I'm not a Republican. I'm not conservative. I'm liberal in most things. My fiscal conservatism has to do with not subsidizing large corporations. Now, here's a couple of things about this president and why his people like him. People like this president because they thought he was going to clean up the mess in Washington, that he was going to end the corruption, clean out the liars, cheats, and thieves, and bring a sound business sense to running the country. First of all, country is not a business. And if you think that it is, you're wrong. The problem in the country, as I've stated in previous video blogs that I've done, has to do with business. Not all businesses, most small businesses are wonderful. They are the basis of our economy. They employ the most people. They're great. And maybe they're the ones that deserve the tax amnesty that the large corporations got from this tax break. Okay, this tax cut is a disaster for most of the people. Sure, you get a few $100, maybe a couple $1,000 back from your paycheck every week. At the end of the year, you've saved maybe a few $1,000. I have. Problem is I had to pay $4,000 more. I would have rather have been taxed for that $4,000 during the fiscal year. Now I have to pay it back at the end of the year. Now I have to have a tax savings account to pay for my fucking taxes because of this piece of shit administration and the previous Republican Congress. I have to pay for this huge mistake. So the facts just came out for 2018. There were over 300 corporations that paid 11.5% or less. There were several that paid no tax at all. In fact, got huge rebates. Even the great video game company, Activision, got like a $243 million rebate on their taxes. So they were like negative $541 million in that column. Now, if you dismiss this and you think this kind of behavior, this kind of legislation benefits you in America, you're either very rich and an investor in those types of corporations, or you're just a dumb fuck. Now, there's not enough rich people to call everybody a dumb fuck. There's a lot of very wealthy people. And I don't mean people that make $300,000 a year. I mean people that make over millions per year. These people, many of them, love Trump. Why? Because Trump has paid them back huge dividends without taxing them. This prick constantly brags about the stock market. Well, the rate of increase in the stock market has very little to do with him. It mostly has to do with the policies of the previous administration, some of which have been carried on by the Federal Reserve in this one. It's the low interest that stimulated the economy. Now, how much is that has come back to half of the population who worked for a living? Not very much. If you make over $300,000-400,000 a year, you did well with the taxes. If you have your own small business, you're a sole proprietor or S Corp, LLC, you may have done well with your taxes. I have to go and do that again now. I do have a small business that I'm running. I'm not reporting anything yet. I'm going to for fiscal 2018. and it's a legitimate business with receipts and returns and everything else. So I'm going to have a tax break because of that. And it was an earnest investment like most small businesses make. Most small businesses make earnest investments in their enterprise. Here's the problem. We got a lot of people on the lower economic end of things that supported this wannabe dictator piece of shit. I never liked this guy. Yes, I wanted to impeach him from day one. I'm not going to be like the lawmakers and say I didn't, because they didn't. Most of the lawmakers, the Democratic lawmakers, most of them attempt and make a big effort to represent their constituency. They do. I know they do. And so do some of the Republicans. There's some districts out there where people are really fucked up in the head when it comes to the general welfare of the country. And these bastards hate the word welfare because it means people are stealing my hard-earned dollars from me through taxes. I got news for you, baby. No taxes, you have shitty infrastructure. And we're seeing our infrastructure break down horribly because of that. So what does the kleptocrat in chief in the White House want to do? He wants to shift all of this responsibility back to the states. Well, the states are scared to death to increase taxes because they know people will emigrate out. They know that businesses will emigrate out. So the state is not the answer there. The tax problem is federal. These 350 companies that paid less than 11%, now the corporate tax rate right now is 15, okay? I don't like that. It should be about 70, and it should be a flat fucking tax with no loopholes. If that was the case, I think we would see things turn around economically. I think we could cut down that deficit. You see, these kleptocrats, they don't care about the deficit. I don't really either, because I think it's primarily bullshit. They've known that from day one. They just use it as a political talking point. That's all it's used for. So it's bullshit. However, these motherfuckers have increased it. Now, what many of them would love to do, these so-called teabaggers, what they really are, these teabaggers and ultra-conservatives, they're all reactionaries. That's what they are. This libertarian poison that's in people's minds. There's no free market. That bullshit about returning to a free market, that's bullshit. There's no fucking free market. There never has been. It's really not very possible. It's almost impossible to have a free market except on a small local scale where there's no outside interference economically. So that's all bullshit. And if you embrace the free market concept and the ANCAP bullshit, all you are is somebody that's acquisitive. And I've had long discussions with ANCAPs, and they think it's really okay for them to do what they do. Well, I got news for you, baby. It's not okay for 300 and some odd corporations to pay 11% or less, or 11.4% or less in their taxes. It's not okay for several corporations to pay no tax and get rebates that are reaping huge profits, like Amazon. You know, their profit was like 11.4 billion. How the fuck did that come back to the people? Did Bezos go in and create housing for the homeless and spend billions on that in the communities where his fulfillment centers are? Fuck no. Did a little bit in Seattle and then stopped it because he had a fight with certain members of the city council in Seattle. Fuck you, Bezos. You fucking capitalist piece of shit. Fuck you. And fuck the Washington Post charging for people to read their rag when there's dozens of news sources that, report just as good of information. The problem is they pay big bucks to their investigative reporters, and we miss their reports because many of us don't subscribe to the Washington Post. I'm never going to subscribe. That's bullshit, wanting my money. New York Times, fuck you. Fuck you too. So I share the general sentiment of many people when it comes to those news medias. And also the mainstream electronic media, your cable networks, they all have bias. You know, like they put on this, and I hate this total characterization of the left as representing the middle of the Democratic Party or the conservative aspects of the Democratic Party at all. Only the far left represents a smidgen of what it is to be a leftist. I consider myself, in political thinking, a leftist. Okay? Politically, I have leftist thinking. Okay? Which means I don't believe in state socialism, which is what we have now. Yes, we have state business subsidized socialism. The big businesses, did you hear my tax rant? Yeah, the big businesses are subsidized. Several are not paying any tax or getting rebates plus not paying any tax. That is government subsidy of corporations. That is state socialism. That's the socialism I object to. The socialism I like is democratic socialism, where businesses give their employees a vote in the direction and the distribution of their profits. Where they don't have a vote, bad. Or if, those owners are beneficent, which very few are, they may put on a guise of being beneficent, like where I work. They put on a guise of being beneficent. They're not beneficent. They give some benefits. We haven't had a raise since 2008, so fuck them. Yeah, we had a little tiny commission raise, okay? Nada. I'm not going to go into that. That's personal stuff. So while people are making greater profits and giving greater productivity to their companies, and the employees are not sharing this. Now there are companies where the employees do get to share in this, okay? And those are good practices. But if those companies are not paying any tax, that's bullshit. And if they're paying very small taxes and not giving the difference in the profits to their employees, that's fucked. And also, I guess, the dividends of their stockholders. But here's the whole problem. When we work for an employer in a publicly held corporation, we're enslaved. We're enslaved to the stockholders. God damn it. Fuck this whole thing up. Okay. We're enslaved to the stockholders, to the corporate board, and to management. We're enslaved. We're enslaved to those entities. When you go to work for a company, you are a paid slave. That's right. Now, this is not a treatise for everybody to go in business for themselves. Most of us don't want to be in business. Most of us don't want the burden. We don't want to go to sleep with that. So we give over 8 to 10 or even 12 hours a day of our daily life to these cretins that own these businesses. That's what we do. We make some of them get rich from us. Others of them go broke. Some of them treat us very fairly and equitably. Some of them don't. I would say probably most of them are on the borderline or do not. We don't have the statistics, so that could be a moot point. Anyhow, here's the problem. Big business is the problem, not big government. Since big business has bought big government for decades, this is why we have the problem. So you get a piece of shit demagogue like this one that's in the White House to come in, going to drain the swamp, clean everything up, put a few bucks in everybody's pocket. Well, that's it. It's damn few bucks, unless you're very wealthy and have a lot of corporate investment. So that's all been a lie. I'm sorry that you guys believe this. I'm sorry that you believe he's made things better. He has not made things better for those of us who have had a truly open mind about this. There's a lot of people, and I got to go pretty quick here. There's a lot of people who ride the middle because they're afraid if they voice their true objections to what's going on, that their employer will fire them. And so they're in a hotbed of reactionary conservatism. That's where I work. The management team, for the most part, are reactionary conservatives. They're no tax motherfuckers. Okay, great. I don't like paying taxes either. However, after seeing the error of my ways with taxes, I know that they're a necessity. Yes, there is waste in spending. Yes, there is. That needs to be cleaned up. That's the cleanup in the swamp that needed to happen. Yes, there's bad regulations. That's where regulations need to be deleted and replaced. But if you don't get rid of a regulation and replace it with a better one, you're hurting us. And so we're getting poisoned now. We're getting ripped off. You know, most taxpayers getting ripped off. Okay, so folks that make under a certain amount of money are getting a few bucks back. That's nice. A lot of us aren't. The people in the middle incomes who spend the most money into the economy are getting ripped off. Most of them. So I reject Wall Street. I hate Wall Street. I hate the fucking corporate bullshit that goes on. Okay, I hate it. There are good corporations and bad ones. The good corporations are employee owned. There's not many. We need more and more of those. We need more and more corporations that allow their employees to vote so that there's a democratic process in the corporations. Because without the workers, there's no businesses. So what happens? The corporations go overseas, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we all know that little dance. Well, the problem is not the government. The problem is the corporations. So what do? You tariff? Okay, here's what you do. You tariff those corporations. You tax them so that they're out of business in this country and they lose all of that. Unless they come back. Unless they bring back their employees. Unless they restart their operations and employ people and pay them more than a livable wage, they must be tariffed. They must be boycotted. They must be forced out. Now, too many people are beholding under these pieces of shit. They suck up and they apologize for them. I'm sorry, man. I do that in my actions, you know. I apologize. I do that in my actions. I don't say anything at my work because it's a dead-end street. If it was going to have effectiveness and going to have a voice, I would say something. But when I go to argue my points, I'm hit with these hardcore, angry, immature rebuttals. So I don't even fuck with it. I had a climate change argument with one of the management people there. Person's totally fucking ignorant, has bought into all the fucking wrong arguments which have no basis in fact. The global warming is natural, so why do anything about it? Argument? Oh, well, the sun causes it. Bullshit. Indirectly, the sun causes it, so when you have a lot of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the heat stays in, heats up the oceans, acidify, blah, blah, blah. There's a whole scenario. Come on. If you reject the science of climate change, you've already put yourself in the toilet and you're just kind of ignoring the fact the flush is coming. And it's coming. So it's these mentalities. It's very tough to work to combat these and inject some open-mindedness, because it is truly very difficult to graft a new idea onto a closed mind.